might go along with that. And again, I didn't talk to my wife this morning. I didn't know what she was talking about, but it could go along a little bit with hers too. But John chapter 11. And we all know this story of Lazarus. Chapter 11:1 says, "Now a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. And when Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus." The story tells of Martha and Mary, and they wanted Jesus to come and heal their brother. Now the Bible says that Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus. Verse 4 says, when he heard that, he said, "This sickness is not unto death." But there's something interesting. I found this when I got to looking at it. Mary and Martha lived in Bethany, which is around 2 miles from Jerusalem. But Jesus was in Bethabara, which was 20 miles away. And when a messenger was sent with a message that Lazarus is sick, it says a dedicated messenger could have covered that distance in less than 1 day. So obviously it was probably a horse that he was riding. But Jesus delayed 2 full days, then travels to Bethany, which takes more than a day. So Jesus arrives 4 days after Lazarus' death. So then it goes on to say, this means when the messenger reaches Jesus saying that Lazarus is sick, Lazarus is already dead. But here's the cool part. Jesus knew that, because it says in 11:4, he told his disciples, Lazarus is dead. So Jesus already knew this. But he still sends a reply back that says to Mary and Martha, this sickness is not unto death. Now wait a minute. He sends this message back, Lazarus is already dead, and he sends it back saying the sickness is not unto death. So they get this message, Lazarus is dead. So you can imagine the looks on their face. What's going on here? Lazarus is dead. How can he say that? So when Jesus arrived, maybe Martha was a little upset over the message. You would be too. And so she says to him, if you would have been here, this would not have happened. I don't know if she said it in a very stern tone or she just said it. But if you would have been here, Jesus, it wouldn't have happened. Well, then Mary saw Jesus. She said, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. So he gets it from both of them. But it doesn't stop there, because you go to John 11:37, and it says, and some of them said, could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should have not died? So you got Martha, you got Mary, and now you got all the people saying, if you would have been here, he wouldn't have died, or couldn't you have healed this man, or right before he died? Well, you could have did something. Here's the deal. They knew he could heal the sick. They knew he could heal the blind. But here's something. They didn't realize that he had all power. He had all power, which means he can even raise the dead. Now, wait a minute. These people had seen Jesus. They had seen what he could do. Mary and Martha knew what he could do. These people knew what he could do because if he can heal the blind, can he heal this man? So they knew exactly what Jesus could do. But they didn't realize that he had all power to even raise the dead. In John 11:38, Jesus told them, roll away the stone. Again, Martha, probably still maybe a little frustrated with God, said to him, Jesus, by this time, he probably stinketh. He's been in there 4 days. What are you saying? Jesus lifted up his voice and cried, Lazarus, come forth. Now, I've heard this. He had to say, Lazarus, come forth. Because if he would have said, come forth, everyone in the grave would have rose. That's the power our God has. But he was specific about what he was doing. He said, Lazarus, come forth. And up comes Lazarus out of the grave, pulling all this stuff off of him. All of a sudden, Mary and Martha have faith. Woo! Their frustrations and their doubt was replaced with faith. Now, you can't get mad at them, church, because we do the same thing. I remember years ago, Dad, when we were at Clinton, I've told this story. We had an elderly lady that lived next door to the church. And we become good friends with her. And one day she comes out on the front porch and she couldn't move her arm any further than this. And she wanted my wife and I to pray for her. So we went up on the front porch and we didn't go into any big spiel of a prayer. We just laid hands on her shoulder and we began to pray. No really, fabulous prayer. We just prayed to the God who we knew who could do something. And we went home. We come back, I think it was on a Monday. It was a holiday, if I remember right. When we pull up to the church, and here she comes out on the front porch doing one of these things. Well, she couldn't do it the other day because her rotator cuff, something was wrong with the doctor said, and she couldn't move it. But this day, she had her hands raised. God had touched her. God had moved on her and took care of that. Years ago, this sounds kind of weird. I don't know what happened, but I would break out in really bad warts all over my hand. And they would get huge, and so they had to keep burning them off. But Dad, I remember the day I walk up front and Dad prayed for me. From that day forth, I've never had a wart in my life on my hand. God touched me that day. And so you see these things. These things happen in your eyes. And then all of a sudden, when we moved to this area, my wife come down sick with she had these jerks. And she was in the hospital every other week or so, it seemed like. I saw what God can do. I saw him heal a friend of mine. I saw him take those warts off my hand. And then my wife was suffering in the hospital almost every week. I was having to carry her out to the van to go to church and carrying her back in the house after church. And this went on forever. And I'm thinking, God, where are you? So I can't get upset at Mary and Martha. Jesus said he would come and see Lazarus while he was alive, but he got delayed. For some reason, I think that's not really what happened. I think God was, in fact, he said it, he was going to prove something here. But have you ever prayed about a situation and felt like God told you, I will take care of it? Then it goes into, did I really hear that? it goes into maybe I misunderstood him just a little bit. When my dad got sick, when he first went to the hospital, I began to pray. And I felt like God said, don't worry about it. It's all under control. I got this. And I even prayed, Dad, I hate to say it, but God, if this is his time to go, then take him. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say it. I didn't want him to take him, but if that was his will, if that was in God's plans, I had to accept that. And so I began to pray, God, if that's your will, okay. And so as the time went, I got this faith in God that I've never had in a situation like this. And I believed in God, and I was there. God had this under control until they sent him to Chicago. And then the bottom fell out of everything. There goes my faith, church. He left Champaign giving us the thumbs up in Chicago and didn't respond hardly to anything that we said. One day it was up, and then the next day it was down. In fact, we had service that one Sunday, and we got a phone call that it didn't sound good. He was struggling again. Here we go back down, and then it goes back up and goes back down. And this whole time I'm thinking, God, where are you? You see, oftentimes the emotion that is felt when there is a delay, it says it's perplexity. You say, what? Well, that's why the whys and the why nots and all those things are spinning in your mind and nothing makes sense. Well, perplexity says this: an inability to deal with or understand something complicated. So this whole time with my dad in the hospital, I was perplexed because I was dealing with an inability to deal with or understand what was going on. When I have a God who can heal the sick, when I have a God who can cause the blind eyes to see, who can move on any situation and raise a man from the dead, I was having trouble. I couldn't understand where my God was. So the pain is real, and the trial does not go away. 2 Corinthians 4:8 says, we are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. You got to understand something. Even though Paul was an apostle, you read in the book, he still had trouble. He experienced times of being perplexed. And if you've been in this thing any length of time, you have experienced it or you will experience it. You see, it could be a normal day, and suddenly situations arise in your life, and everything you try to fix it doesn't work. And so you become frustrated in trying, and you're perplexed, and you begin to ask questions. Why is this happening to me? Why can't I figure it out? I've tried everything, but nothing is working. You cry out, where are you, God? Why don't you hear my cry? And then confusion, uncertainty, and embarrassment set in. And you even say, I have fasted. I have prayed. I've even anointed with oil. I've had faith. And I've prayed some more. And nothing changes. The problem's still there. The situation is still there. Paul said, we are perplexed. That means to be disturbed mentally so as not to think clearly. And then he goes on, it's a time of vexation and torment over a predicament that is out of our control, we think. Paul said things would get so complicated, involved, and in such a mess that at times there would be confusion. Have anybody been there? Or just me? But then I like what he says on that ending of that verse. He adds, but not in despair. I'm perplexed. I'm vexation, torment, but I'm not in despair. In other words, I'm not in hope, and I have hope. There's no hopelessness here. There's no dejection. There's no despondency. Someone once described despair as give up on God. It's basically what we do. When we get into despair, we give up on God. Listen, church, it doesn't matter what you go through. Nothing is worth walking out on God. Nothing. He will bring you out of your trials if you will keep your faith in Him. No matter how frustrated we get. A minister once said this, the Christian worker must be permanently a man of faith, or he will despair in his toil, as nearly all that is seen is in opposition to his mission. We, as Christians, we have to be permanently a person of faith. Because of what's going on in this world today will drive you crazy. Because we have no control in it. So we must believe God's promises. E.L. Watts said, I believe the promises of God enough to venture an eternity on it. Do you? Do you believe in God's promises enough to venture an eternity on it? Do you believe in what God can do? Do you have faith enough that God will take care of the situation? You see, there's situations in our life that can seem pitch black, that our hands are tied, that there's nothing we can do. But this is not the time, church, to sit down and die. In Job 23:10, it said, Job said, but He knoweth the way that I take. God knows your path. And when He hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. But He knoweth the way that I take. He knoweth my situation. He knows the troubles I'm having. So when you feel at wit's end, I'm here to tell you, wait till God gives you direction. That's hard to do. But church, we have seen in this place here what God can do. We've seen Him heal people. We've seen situations change. I was talking about Sister Betty and her son going to church. We prayed about that, and God is changing that. God is working. So we know His power. We know He can heal. We know He can change situations. So when we get into a situation where we don't know what to do, we just got to stand still and see the glory of God and see what He can do, and He will take care of it. Isaiah 30:21 says this, and thy ears shall hear a word behind thee, saying, this is the way, walk ye in it. When you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. This is the way, God says, walk in it. You see, God knows the way. And whether you believe it or not, He will not lead you astray. But He will lead you in a way you should go, even when there's high water, even when there's fire, even when there's a desert. He will go with you, because the Bible says in Isaiah 43:2, when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers thou shalt not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burnt, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. God's got it in control. God has your situation in control. It doesn't matter what it is. Church, God's got it. He says in Isaiah, not only will he go with you, but he will go before you. Isaiah 45:2-3. I will go before thee and make the crooked places straight. I will break in pieces the gates of brass, and out in sunder the bars of iron, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou mayest know that I, the Lord, which call thee by name, am the God of Israel. He knows your name. He knows what you're going through. Let's stand. He knows everything about you. Brother Tapia said in Psalms 23 about the shadow of the valley of death. Things that you're going to have to walk through. There's that old saying, when you see only one set of footprints, it's not yours. It's God carrying you through the situation. It's God taking care of your situation. And I'm here to tell you, church, God's got this. God has got the situation. He's moving in the situation. It looks grim. We didn't get we weren't satisfied maybe with what happened in the election, but God's got this. He will take care of the situation. He will take care of the politics. He will take care of people. He will take care of his children. If we just trust in him, he will make the crooked ways straight. When you walk through the high water and the fire and the desert, my God will be there. What a promise. And when God promises to his children, he keeps the promise. And so he's saying to you today, have faith in me. Through your frustrations, have faith in me. Through your disappointments, have faith in me. Through the political situation, have faith in me. Because I can take care of it. If you're struggling today, you're in the right place for God to take care of it. If there's something in your life that you can't get past, if you're perplexed, if you're struggling mentally, you just don't know what to do and what's going on, you're in the right place, church. There's altars you can find, and God says, I will take care of it. If you just pour it out on the altar and give it to him, God will take care of it. If you got a situation that you know, God, I can't do this. Or let's put it this way, you got a situation where you're trying to take care of it yourself. Tony, let go of it. God wants it.